My parents' 40th anniversary dinner was held in a private banquet room at a country club outside Chicago. White roses lined the tables. A slideshow of their wedding photos played on a large screen near the bar. My mom wore a silver evening gown she had been saving for something memorable. My dad, Robert, moved from table to table greeting guests like he was hosting a corporate fundraiser. I was adjusting place cards when my dad tapped his glass for attention. "We have one more surprise," he said. "A family trip to Maui. All of us. First class." The room broke into applause. My sister Emily clapped the loudest. Her 2 kids started talking about snorkeling. I waited for details. Then I asked lightly, "What time is my flight?" My dad smiled the way he does when correcting a small misunderstanding. "You're not coming," he said. "Someone has to stay back. The dogs need feeding. And Emily's kids can't handle long flights without you when we get back." A few relatives laughed softly, as if this was practical. Emily nodded, relieved. No one objected. I did not react. I straightened a fork and sat down. That's when I understood something had shifted. Before I explain what happened next, I want to pause for a moment. If you have ever been the reliable one in your family, the person who makes things work quietly in the background, you may recognize this feeling. If this story resonates with you, you can share where you're listening from or leave a comment. I read them when I can. Have you ever noticed how being dependable can slowly turn into being invisible? I had been dependable for most of my life. That night, I realized I had also become convenient. I am 26. I work in financial compliance for a regional firm in downtown Chicago. I rent an apartment 15 minutes from my parents' house. Close enough to be useful. Far enough to appear independent. In our family, roles were assigned early and rarely updated. Emily is 2 years older. She has always been described as emotional, creative, sensitive. When she missed deadlines, someone reminded her. When she overspent, someone covered it. When she argued, someone smoothed it over. I was described differently. Practical. Mature for my age. Easy. When I was 12, I was the one who brought my dad the paperwork he forgot before leaving for work. When I was 15, I learned how to file taxes online because my parents found the software confusing. When I was 17, I stayed home from a spring break trip because someone had to help our grandfather after his surgery. No one forced me. They asked. I agreed. At family gatherings, I refilled drinks without being told. I kept track of gifts so thank you cards could be mailed on time. I knew which relatives were not speaking and adjusted seating quietly. Authority in our family was visible. My dad decided. My mom reinforced. Emily reacted. I implemented. I was praised often but in a specific tone. "We don't worry about you. You understand. You're the strong one." Strong in our house meant low maintenance. Over time, I became the person who absorbed inconvenience so everyone else could experience ease. It looked like responsibility. It felt like stability. It was also a system. After college, when I started earning, my dad asked if I could help organize household finances. "Just streamline things," he said. "You're good with numbers." I created spreadsheets. I categorized expenses. I set reminders for property tax and homeowners insurance. I linked utilities to one dashboard. It made everything efficient. Eventually, it expanded. I applied for a premium travel credit card when my dad's application stalled over a verification issue. I added him as an authorized user so we could accumulate points faster. I set up automatic payments from my account. I digitized old investment statements and stored them securely. Emily often called when her checking account dipped too low before payday. I transferred money and kept a simple ledger so she would not incur overdraft fees. No one framed this as power. It was described as help. At dinner parties, my dad would say, "She handles the boring stuff. We don't even look at bills anymore." Guests would nod approvingly. Access creates awareness. Awareness creates options. At the time, I saw it as efficiency. If I was going to be responsible, I would be thorough. I kept digital copies of everything. Not out of suspicion. Out of habit. Order reduces chaos. When my dad announced that I would stay home during the Maui trip, I could have objected. I could have said I had my own vacation days. That I traveled for work regularly. That I was not hired staff. But reacting would have confirmed a narrative they already believed. That I was difficult when I did not get my way. Silence preserved access. Compliance maintained proximity. If I argued publicly, the focus would shift from their exclusion to my tone. Arrogance makes people sloppy. When people assume obedience, they stop checking details. So I nodded. I even asked what brand of dog food they preferred while they were gone. My dad looked satisfied. The system remained intact. For a few more minutes. The dinner ended with cake and speeches. Guests began leaving. Close relatives lingered near the stage. My mom handed out printed itineraries for Maui. Thick cardstock. Embossed names. There were 5 envelopes. My parents. Emily. Her husband. 2 children listed together. I was not listed. An aunt glanced at me. "You're holding down the fort?" she asked gently. Before I could respond, Emily laughed. "She hates long flights anyway," she said. "This works better." That was not true. But it was convenient. My dad added, "Less complication." Complication. The word settled quietly. Later, Emily pulled me aside. "While you're home, can you email the school about Liam's schedule change? And maybe review our tax estimate? We might owe this year." She spoke the way someone delegates before leaving for a business trip. I agreed. Because saying no would create tension. And tension would be described as my lack of support. As I boxed leftover cake for guests, I realized something. They didn't realize what they had just handed me. The next morning, I opened my laptop. Instead of drafting the school email, I logged into the credit card portal. 5 first-class tickets to Maui. Charged 2 days earlier. On the primary card. Under my name. 2 years ago, when my dad's application was delayed, I applied instead. He was added as an authorized user. Legally, the account belonged to me. I downloaded the transaction receipt. Non-refundable after 24 hours. The window had passed. I opened a folder on my encrypted drive labeled Household Active. Subfolders: Utilities, Insurance, Investments, Cards, Property. I added one more: Travel. I archived email confirmations and cardholder agreements. I highlighted the clause stating only the primary account holder could modify or cancel bookings made through the rewards portal. I saved it. Then I reviewed Emily's transfers over 18 months. Small amounts. Frequent. I reconciled them against repayments. There was a gap. I documented it in a spreadsheet. Clarity prevents confusion later. For the next few days, I behaved normally. I fed the dogs. I helped my mom compare suitcase brands online. I suggested a restaurant in Lahaina. At night, I organized files. I confirmed that automatic payments for the card pulled from my personal checking account. I reviewed cancellation procedures. I drafted an email template requesting confirmation of account authority if needed. Preparation replaces reaction. By the 4th evening, everything was backed up to an external encrypted drive in my desk drawer. I slept well. 2 days before departure, my dad called me into his home office. "We need a small adjustment," he said. He handed me a form authorizing a temporary credit limit increase on the travel card. "Just sign. In case of emergency expenses," he said. The increase was substantial. The liability would be mine. Emily stood in the doorway. "You're not even going. At least help this way." "Help this way." I looked at the signature line. Then I nodded. "I'll take care of it," I said. That evening, instead of signing, I logged into the portal. I selected each ticket. And I chose cancel. The system required confirmation. I confirmed. Refunds processed as travel credits tied to the primary account holder. Me. Automated emails were sent to each passenger. Subject line: booking cancellation confirmation. I placed my phone on the table and made tea. Emily called first. "Did you see this?" she asked. "Yes." "What happened?" "I canceled the tickets. As primary account holder, I'm responsible for the liability. I'm not extending additional credit." Silence. My dad took the phone. "You had no right." "I did," I said. "The account is in my name. You're an authorized user. Power shifts are administrative." There was no shouting. There was confusion. My parents called the airline. The airline redirected them to the rewards department. The department confirmed that only the primary account holder could reinstate canceled tickets. Rebooking cost significantly more. My dad attempted to open a new premium card. Approval would take time. Emily searched for alternative flights. Prices had doubled. Relatives began texting about departure times. My mom responded vaguely. The next day, my dad came to my apartment. He asked me to reconsider. "I have reconsidered," I said. He listed everything they had provided for me growing up. I acknowledged it. "I am declining additional liability," I said. He asked why I had not discussed it. "I was not consulted about the trip," I replied. By evening, their hotel package was canceled. Deposits were partially forfeited. The authorization letter remained unsigned on my desk. The travel credits remained in my account. 3 days later, the anniversary posts disappeared from social media. The celebration ended with administrative emails. A week later, I drove to my parents' house while they were out. I fed the dogs one last time. I placed the spare key, garage remote, and a printed summary of outstanding shared expenses on the kitchen island. At the bottom, I wrote that all future financial matters should be handled independently. Access to my accounts had been revoked. I removed my laptop from the office desk. I locked the front door and slid the key through the mail slot. The sound was brief. I walked to my car without looking back. People assume power looks like confrontation. In my experience, it looks like clarity. For years, I believed that solving problems quietly would eventually translate into respect. It translated into convenience. Respect requires boundaries. I do not regret helping my family. I learned precision, observation, discipline. What changed was my willingness to subsidize comfort at my own expense. The night of the anniversary, when my dad smiled and excluded me, he assumed the pattern would continue. Patterns continue until interrupted. I did not interrupt it with anger. I interrupted it with procedure. Communication is limited now. Practical. Polite. My parents manage their own accounts. Emily hired a financial advisor. Last month, I booked a trip for myself. Economy class. Window seat. I paid with the travel credits. No one asked me to stay behind. I boarded when my row was called. And when the plane lifted off, I felt something steady. Not triumph. Not revenge. Just equilibrium. Some celebrations end with speeches. Ours ended with terms and conditions. And that is where it will remain.